Now on Sunrise and streaming on crossroadstoday.com. The Middle East enraged following what Gaza leaders believe to be a targeted attack on a hospital. We're following the aftermath. And turning now to Capitol Hill and the chaos in Congress. Jim Jordan scrambling for votes this morning after failing to secure his bid for Speaker of the House. We'll tell you what's next for the Republican nominee. And former President Trump's civil fraud trial continued in New York yesterday, the first hearing since that partial gag order was placed on the former president last week. We have this story and more straight ahead.
And we're going to be warming up with that dry line passing over us by tomorrow evening, and we'll be warming up with some southerly flows to take a look at the weather coming right up.
We take a look at the biggest games featuring area teams this week, and these are so good we still don't know which one should be the game of the week. That's coming up in sports.
You're watching 25 News Now Sunrise. Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Carolina Astrain.
And I'm Parker Cox.
And today it's the 18th day of October 2023. The time is now 6:30 on our Wednesday morning. And on this day in 1867, the U.S. takes formal possession of Alaska from Russia, paying $7.2 million. A very valuable and strategic purchase on the country's part.
Yeah, I think Russia really missed the ball on that one. Very, very popular state.
And Parker, you were saying that you would never go to Alaska.
I like the warm temperature, so y'all, I'm sorry. I don't like the cold. You know, it's too cold for me outside right now as it is.
Well, our very own Don Brubaker traveled to Alaska with some of our viewers a few years ago, and he's set for another holiday vacation. I'm not sure where it is this year, but y'all are going to have to check it out on our website. So, Parker, are we going to be no rain for a few days?
No rain, and it's not going to be as cold as it is in Alaska, but it is cool right now this morning. I think it's about 50 degrees right now, but we're going to be warming up a little bit today and over the next few days. If you take a look at those temperatures for the rest of the state today, heating up to pretty much the 80s for the majority of the state, with maybe a couple select areas reaching the 90s, going to be dropping to the 60s overnight, and then eventually back into the upper 80s tomorrow, warming maybe to the 90s this weekend as we get a dry line passing over us on Thursday. We take a look at what's going to go on with that. We got this low moving out of, it's going to be exiting Canada by today and then moving into the Great Lakes region by tomorrow. And that's what's going to spawn a cold front along that trough axis. Now, we were originally thinking that cold front might come down a little close to our neck of the woods, but now it's going to just dissipate into a dry line. As we take a look, what's going to happen is we have that, it's going to be maybe a weak low to develop at the bottom of that trough, and that's what's going to slingshot that dry air around. And then after that, we're going to be heating up some more with that southerly flows, that high returns to the Gulf, and we're going to have another low to come into our neck of the woods by next week, bringing those rain chances. We take a look at the energy in place for next week. We were originally thinking we're going to get a shower or two ahead of that dry line, but that's no longer the case, as there's no longer energy and there's a cap in place. But the energy buildup next week is what we're looking at, as we might see some showers and thunderstorms, especially next week, and especially take a look at that over the next few days as that gets closer. In just a few moments, we're going to take a look at that fishing forecast and that school bus forecast and your full weather. But for now, back to you, Carolina.
President Biden is in Israel today during a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. President Biden said that Americans are concerned about what is going on in Israel. Biden's visit to the country is in an effort to show unwavering support for Israel and to also attempt to slow movement toward broader escalation. Leaders in Gaza say hundreds of people died Tuesday after a hospital was hit by an airstrike. Ambulances and other vehicles loaded with casualties arrived at the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City, about a mile away from the Al-Ahi hospital, which was reportedly targeted by air strikes. The Palestinian Health Ministry says 200 to 300 people were killed in what they believe was a targeted attack. Israeli Defense Forces tell Israeli media the blast at the hospital was a failed Hamas rocket launch and denied the hospital was one of its targets. The incident comes just before President Biden was due to visit the region. We'll go to Washington for the latest on the blast later on Sunrise. Due to the turmoil in the Middle East, security measures on Capitol Hill are being heightened today while Republicans strive to select the next House Speaker. Although Congressman Jim Jordan fell short in the previous round of voting, he's preparing for another round today. In the interim, legislative activity in the House has come to a halt.
This morning, round two in the GOP's effort to elect a new Speaker of the House.
We got to wake up and stop this nonsense. There's real serious work to be done.
Frontrunner Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, failing to garner enough support during the first round of voting.
Esposito.
Lee Zeldin.
Zelton.
20 Republicans refusing to toe the party line.
I am not going to vote for Jim.
The Ohio conservative has divided the party, due in part to his staunch support of former President Trump and his refusal to accept the results of the 2020 election. Other critics question his track record as a lawmaker. A decades-old abuse scandal also hangs over Jordan's head, stemming from his time as an assistant wrestling coach at Ohio State University.
He's abandoned us for his own selfish reasons. When he could have helped us, he's chosen not to.
Wrestlers from the team are renewing calls for accountability over Jordan's alleged inaction surrounding claims that the team's late doctor was molesting students.
The fact that the doctor was around us in our saunas, in our showers, changing with everyone, you would have to know about what is going on. Everybody knew what was going on there at that point in time.
Jordan, who is named as a witness in a lawsuit against the university, has denied knowledge of the alleged abuse. His office saying Chairman Jordan never saw or heard of any abuse, and if he had, he would have dealt with it. Justin Finch, ABC News, Washington.
Washington, round 2 of voting is expected this morning. Jordan says he remains confident he'll get the votes he needs to become the next speaker. That leads us to your viewer poll. You can scan the QR code on your screen to take part. We ask you, do you think Jim Jordan will eventually secure the speakership? Okay, let's take a look. 62% of you say yes, that's less than the last half hour, and 39% of you say no, you are doubtful. Thank you for taking part in our viewer poll. Donald Trump returned to a Manhattan courtroom on Tuesday for his ongoing civil fraud trial. Trump faces allegations of misrepresenting his net worth by billions of dollars, with both him and his company as well as his 2 adult sons being the subjects of the lawsuit. In various cases, Trump is subject to partial gag orders, which primarily restrict him from making statements against specific court personnel and potential witnesses. On Tuesday, a driver was recorded traveling at nearly 100 miles per hour as he approached Hallettsville. That's when the situation escalated in terms of danger. Authorities report that the driver started weaving in and out of traffic while they attempted to pull him over. The driver eventually chose to halt in the 100 block of East 4th Street. He came to a stop in the private driveway visible on your screen. The 32-year-old driver from Big Wells was apprehended on charges of evading in a motor vehicle. Law enforcement then transported and processed him at the Lavaca County Jail. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. The time is now just about 6:38 on our Wednesday morning. Here's a look at what's coming up on 25 News Now Sunrise. While turning 100 may be a pretty significant birthday for some, for Juanita, it's just another day.
It's now set for a critical face-to-face meeting as tensions flare across the Middle East following a deadly hospital blast in Gaza. I'm ABC's Justin Finch following the latest from Washington.
And we're going to be taking a look at that fishing forecast and the school bus forecast coming up right after the break.
Hi, I'm Detective Kelly Gibbs with the Victoria Police Department. Victoria Crime Stoppers is seeking information about burglaries of a building. The Victoria Police Department is requesting assistance in the identification of a white or Hispanic male subject that was caught on surveillance video. On September 28, 2023, several storage units were burglarized at a business located at the 200 block of Sam Houston Drive. The male subject was described as being approximately 5'10", with dark curly hair, wearing a red shirt and black shorts. The male subject was also seen carrying a sling-type bag with a pair of shoes tied to it. If you have any information about these burglaries of a building, please call Victoria Crime Stoppers at 361-572-4200. You can also submit a tip by using the B3 Tip app on your Android or Apple device, or by visiting our website at www.crimestoppersvictoria.com. All tips are anonymous, and if you give information that leads to an arrest or charges being filed, you could earn a cash reward. With the Victoria Police Department, I'm Detective Kelly Gibbs.
right there. It's actually quite clear out there. You might see a few stars out there this morning. It's pretty clear, but it's also a quite cool one this morning. 51 degrees is the ambient temperature out there with a dew point of 49, bringing that humidity to a high 92%. Of course, that is quite normal being down here on the coast. Well, if you're sending your kiddos out to school this morning, it's supposed to be about 50, maybe 51 as it is right now as we're heading out the door. So make sure to dress them cool for school. Maybe just packing a jacket because it is going to warm up a little bit in the afternoon, up to 80 degrees. Sunny and warm is expected this afternoon, making a good day to go fishing. So we're going to take a look at your fishing forecast now. We already had that high tide pass. It was a few hours ago at 2:49 in the morning with a low tide at 2:12 in the afternoon and winds 5 to 10 knots out of the south, making those bays nice and smooth and seas 1 to 2 feet just slightly choppy. Well, we can take a look at your 7-day. It's supposed to be warming up over the next few days into next week as well, as we're supposed to be getting a dry line passing through us tomorrow evening. And that's actually going to warm us up as we get that dry air in place. It's going to let the solar heat the land a little bit more than in the humid conditions. And we might get some rain and thunderstorm chances next week as we get another low pressure system to move into the area. That's it for weather. We're going to take more look at the rain chances in just a few moments. Back to you, Carolina.
Thank you, Parker. There are plenty of big games to watch this week for high school football. Sports Director Gino Perez highlights them.
At Crossroads, there are 3 games featuring Crossroads area teams that are important and could potentially be the game of the week this week. Game 1 includes the Goliad Tigers, which are heading to Edna and are going to rely on its dominant defense if the Tigers want to do something it hasn't done in over 5 years, and that's beat the Cowboys. The Cowboys are ranked number 6th in the state and undefeated in district. This game will likely be for the district title. Also in Class 3A, the Yoakum Bulldogs are on a downhill skid after losing 2 in a row and starting 0-1 in district play. Yoakum will be taking on the top team in the district, the undefeated and number 2 ranked in the state, Columbus Cardinals. Yoakum has not beaten Columbus since 2018. The Bulldogs are still searching for its first district win. The final game that has the potential to be electric is the Shiner and Refugio game. These two 2A Titans are about as familiar with each other as can be, Refugio being more dominant as of late, but Shiner being more successful after winning back-to-back state titles in 2020 and 2021. That's your 25 Sports Now.
All right, thank you, Gino. We want to invite y'all to experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. I actually have been using it the last couple of days, and it's fantastic. You can find it on your Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and Android TV. Now to the developments out of the Middle East and the Israel-Hamas war. President Biden is in Israel for a series of high-stakes meetings with Israel's prime minister today, but his talks with Arab leaders are now called off. The cancellation comes after the Gaza Health Ministry reports at least 500 Palestinian civilians were killed when a rocket struck a hospital.
Tensions intensifying this morning across the Middle East. From the West Bank to Jordan to Iran, angry protests prompted by reports of a deadly missile strike at a Gaza City hospital, killing hundreds. Many of the dead were injured Palestinian civilians, others seeking shelter from the fighting. Videos circulating online showing that hospital reduced to a burning shell. Hamas militants blaming the blast on an Israeli missile, Israel insisting they are not at fault.
This was the Islamic Jihad that fired a long-range rocket towards a long-range target. It failed and exploded, and that is what happened at the hospital.
Gaza residents angered and afraid.
We went to schools, they bombed schools. We went to the south, they bombed the south.
The explosion happening just as President Biden was heading to the Middle East. Biden saying in a statement, "I am outraged and deeply saddened by the explosion at the Al Ali Arab Hospital in Gaza and the terrible loss of life that resulted." The president saying the U.S. supports the protection of civilian life during conflict and that he's directing his team to investigate. A U.S. official tells ABC News it is uncertain who launched the strike and it will take a while to determine. Following the hospital rocket strike, talks between the president and the leaders of Jordan, Egypt, and the Palestinian Authority were canceled. But Biden's talks with Israel's prime minister and leadership will move forward. ABC News has learned the Biden administration is drafting a $100 billion foreign aid package that includes security assistance for Israel. Justin Finch, ABC News, Washington.
November 1st will mark a century of life for Aquera woman. While it may be a milestone birthday to some, for Juanita Peters, she says it's just another day. We asked Peters what keeps her going every day, and she said never smoking or drinking and dancing every night, actually every Saturday night, and her daily talks with God.
Very few, very, very few. I was kind of thinking about when I graduated, and I can think of only one person that's left with me in my class of graduation.
Peters reads daily. She says she's read a book almost every day of her life, and she loves to brag about her 4 children that put themselves through college. One of her sons worked at HEB for 53 years. Our full interview with Peters will be on the Crossroads Today YouTube page. The time is now 6:47 on our Wednesday morning. Still to come, emergency rooms at hospitals continue to experience significant increases in injuries linked to micromobility devices. All right, time to celebrate some birthdays. Happy birthday to Gabriel. Wishing you a birthday that brings you happiness today and memories to cherish. I want you to know how much you mean to me and the children, and how grateful we are to have you in our lives. We love you.
And a big happy birthday to Daniel Jr. from his daughter, son, parents, and all his family who love him so very much.
And happy birthday to Perla. May you have a wonderful and blessed day. Love mom, dad, brothers, sisters, and nieces.
And happy 12th birthday to Casey Joe. May you have a great birthday. Love mom, dad, brothers, and sisters.
And actor Zac Efron with a birthday today. He's 36. Happy birthday.
And to see your birthday wish live on 25 News Now Sunrise, come to crossroadstoday.com. Click on more, and under home, you'll see KAVU to submit your birthday.
Okay, the time is now 6:48 on our Wednesday morning. Happy birthday if you're celebrating one today.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, good morning, Crossroads. Looking at what's going to go on here as this week as this low is going to actually enter the continental United States out of Canada by this afternoon. What's going to happen is that low is going to move into the Great Lakes by tomorrow. That's going to spawn a cold front along that trough axis, and we were originally thinking that front might make its way just around our area, but in fact, it's actually going to dissipate into a dry line and pass through our neck of the woods by tomorrow evening. Well, what's going to happen after that is we're going to actually be warming up after that dry line passes. As all that dry air is in place, that sun can actually start heating up the ground much easier, as there's no moisture to block that solar energy coming to the surface. And what's going to happen is we're going to have another hurricane. It's going to make landfall on western Mexico, western, not eastern, so nothing coming our way. And that's going to produce the next frontal system come through, and that's going to produce possibly some rain chances in our neck of the woods by Monday as we get all this energy influx into the southern half of the state by Monday and Tuesday. We're going to take a look at those rain chances, especially over the next few days. That's it for now. Back to you, Kelly.
Thank you, Parker. Does your child want a hoverboard or an electric scooter for their birthday or Christmas? Well, you may want to consider this. Hospital emergency rooms continue to see big spikes in injuries related to these micromobility devices. A new federal report says fractures, cuts, and burns and contusions from e-bikes, hoverboards, and e-scooters surged again last year, more than 20%. In fact, injuries from e-scooters, e-bikes, and hoverboards have risen about 23% each year since 2017. And more than a third of the injuries during the 6-year period involved children 14 years and younger. There are at least 233 deaths tied to the products in that time frame. The real number is probably even higher, as the Consumer Product Safety Commission says its reporting is ongoing and incomplete. X, formerly known as Twitter, is testing an annual fee for some unverified accounts. The social media company announced Tuesday it's testing a new program called Not a Bot. It will require new users in New Zealand and the Philippines to sign up for a $1 annual subscription to post and interact with other posts. New users in the testing region can opt out of this subscription service, but they will only be able to read posts, watch videos, and follow accounts. Existing users will not be affected as part of the test. The company said the program aims to reduce spam and bot activity on the platform. The test comes as Elon Musk has encouraged users to sign up for X's premium subscription. Last month, Musk hinted that X could start charging all users. Still to come on Sunrise, news to know before you go. President Joe Biden contemplating a funding request of $100 billion.
Well, good morning, Crossroads. Looking at what's going to go on here as this week as this low is going to actually enter the continental United States out of Canada by this afternoon. What's going to happen is that low is going to move into the Great Lakes by tomorrow. That's going to spawn a cold front along that trough axis, and we were originally thinking that front might make its way just around our area, but in fact, it's actually going to dissipate into a dry line and pass through our neck of the woods by tomorrow evening. Well, what's going to happen after that is we're going to actually be warming up after that dry line passes. As all that dry air is in place, that sun can actually start heating up the ground much easier as there's no moisture to block that solar energy coming to the surface. And what's going to happen is we're going to have another hurricane. It's going to make landfall on western Mexico, western, not eastern, so nothing coming our way. And that's going to produce the next frontal system come through, and that's going to produce possibly some rain chances in our neck of woods by Monday as we get all this energy influx into the southern half of the state by Monday and Tuesday. We're going to take a look at those rain chances, especially over the next few days. That's it for now. Back to you, Caroline.
Thank you, Parker. Does your child want a hoverboard or an electric scooter for their birthday or Christmas? Well, you may want to consider this. Hospital emergency rooms continue to see big spikes in injuries related to these micromobility devices. A new federal report says fractures, cuts, and burns and contusions from e-bikes, hoverboards, and e-scooters surged again last year, more than 20%. In fact, injuries from e-scooters, e-bikes, and hoverboards have risen about 23% each year since 2017. And more than a third of the injuries during the 6-year period involved children 14 years and younger. There are at least 233 deaths tied to the products in that time frame. The real number is probably even higher, as the Consumer Product Safety Commission says its reporting is ongoing and incomplete. X, formerly known as Twitter, is testing an annual fee for some unverified accounts. The social media company announced Tuesday it's testing a new program called Not a Bot. It will require new users in New Zealand and the Philippines to sign up for a $1 annual subscription to post and interact with other posts. New users in the testing region can opt out of this subscription service, but they will only be able to read posts, watch videos, and follow accounts. Existing users will not be affected as part of the test. The company said the program aims to reduce spam and bot activity on the platform. The test comes as Elon Musk has encouraged users to sign up for X's premium subscription. Last month, Musk hinted that X could start charging all users. Still to come on Sunrise, news to know before you go. President Joe Biden contemplating a funding request of $100 billion. Breaking news this morning, President Biden is in Israel today during a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The president said that Americans are concerned about what is going on in Israel. Biden's visit to the country is in an effort to show unwavering support for Israel and also to attempt to slow movement toward a broader escalation. President Joe Biden considering a $100 billion funding request. The massive supplemental request would include defense aid for Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, and it would be for a full year of funding. U.S. Senate leaders expect Biden to send the request by the end of the week. The request comes as Biden traveled to Tel Aviv and Amman to show support for Israel and meet leaders of Jordan and Egypt on the Gaza humanitarian crisis. The U.S. State Department is warning Americans to avoid traveling to Lebanon amid the Israel-Hamas war. The travel advisory level for Lebanon was raised to level 4. Do not travel. on Tuesday due to an unpredictable security situation. Family members of the U.S. government personnel and some non-emergency personnel will be allowed to voluntarily depart the country. The advisory warned that U.S. citizens who choose to travel to Lebanon should know the U.S. Embassy may not be able to assist them. The public's help is needed in identifying the man on your screen who's suspected in a theft at Kohl's Antiques in Round Top. The suspect reportedly took off in an older model Chevrolet truck. If you can identify him, the Fayette County Sheriff's Office wants to hear from you. Call them at 979-968-5856. The New York Police Department has called for all officers to report in uniform until further notice. In a tweet, the New York Police Department said there are no specific credible threats to the city, also saying they have increased uniform deployments at large gatherings and cultural sites to ensure public safety out of an abundance of caution. The memo also stated officers in marked cars are to have their turret lights on at all times. Those are the two lights on the top light bar that slowly flash. Representative Andrew Murr took on Ken Paxton and lost. He has no regrets. The 5-term House member gained notoriety. During the high-profile impeachment of Paxton, he warned tolerating corruption could hurt Republicans in the long term. Read this story by the Texas Tribune on our website, crossroadstoday.com. And we want to invite you to experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. You can find it on your connected TV through Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and Android TV. Just search Crossroads Today Plus. And we have time for a final check of our forecast with Parker.
Thanks, Carolina. And if you're waking up with us now, and there's another cool one, and look at that as that sun starts coming up in the sky. Nice purple sky. We're sitting at about 51 as that morning temperature, a little cool out there. With a dew point of 49, making that humidity a little humid, 92%, of course, but that's pretty normal down here on the coast. Well, we're going to take a look at what's going to go on this weekend. We're going to have a low that's going to move into the Great Lakes, and that's going to produce a cold front along that trough axis. And eventually we're going to have another, maybe a weak low develop today that's going to slingshot a dry air pocket around and producing that dry line, heating us up even more into the weekend. Now we're going to have another low that's going to come out of the Pacific next week, and that's going to produce some shower and thunderstorm opportunities for next week, and we'll be taking a special look at that tomorrow morning on Sunrise especially, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mac takes a look at that as well this afternoon. Take a look at that 7-day. We're going to be heating up to possibly the 90s this weekend. After that, dry line moves through with those showers and thunderstorm chances next week. And for the weather today, you have a wondrous Weather Wednesday.
All right, thank you, Parker, and thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today, and you can join James, Dawn, Nat, Karina, and Gina today for 25 News Now at 5, 6, and 10. Don't forget, put that umbrella away. You don't need it.